and I will be your conference operator. At this time, I would like to welcome everyone to the Noble Enterprise Migration Conference Call. All lines have been placed on mute to prevent any background noise. If you should need assistance during the call, please press star, then 0, and an operator will come back online to assist you. Thank you. Mr. Jeff Fontenot, you may begin.
Well, thank you very much, and welcome everybody. I appreciate everyone taking time to join us today and review the Noble Enterprise Migration Program. And with me today is Randy Bassix, Senior Solution Engineer for Noble and former longtime employee of TouchStar. Randy brings a unique perspective to the conversation today, as he's a highly technical individual who many of you on the call may have worked with in the past, and now has a great deal of knowledge on the Noble platform. So the goal of today is really to talk about the migration path and the ability to improve your performance through our Noble Enterprise platform. The Noble platform, designed and built over 20 years in the making, focuses heavily on certain aspects for collection industry outsourcers and telemarketers. Every industry has an opportunity to experience an increase in the functions and the features that the application presents. One thing I'd like to note is that the migration program is for a limited time. We'll talk about that process toward the end of the presentation. The agenda today is a quick Noble Systems overview. I'd like to talk a bit about the migration path itself. Randy will go into the platform differentiators, the key differences between the TouchStar application and the Noble Enterprise application. He'll provide us a brief high-level demonstration. We'll talk about next steps, and we'll go through a Q&A session. So most of you have some understanding of the Noble company since the acquisition of TouchStar. I think the key things to touch upon today is really the stability and the strength of Noble Systems. You know, we're headquartered in Atlanta. We've been privately held for over 20 years. We have a high level of tenured management, consistent year-over-year growth and profitability. Noble acquired TouchStar, the global operation of TouchStar, in September of 2009. Since that time, we've established a small-medium business department dedicated to the support of that SMB client. The technical support availability is 24/7. We have dedicated field resources and a professionally staffed and managed operations specifically for TouchStar clients. On the Enterprise platform, there are ongoing application upgrades, a full staff of engineers and developers on board. They continue to not only maintain the code, but add features and functions to the application based on our client's input. The other thing I'd like to add is that a very customer-centric culture in our organization. We have a highly active user group with thousands of members. Our annual Select Noble Users Group, or SNUG conference, is coming in May. We invite everybody on the call to come down and join us. It's a great opportunity to interact with other users of all applications, peer networking, best practices. It's a great opportunity. So from the Enterprise platform, one of the key things that I think is worth noting is that all of the applications in the Noble Enterprise suite are all accessible through a common interface called Maestro, which Randy will demonstrate to you here shortly. Randy, would you like to go through just a couple of the bullet points there on the left that are relevant to the conversation?
Sure. Thanks, Jeff. So essentially, the Enterprise platform offers the standard features that you presently have with the TouchStar system, things as outbound, inbound, and blended communications, interactive IVR and messaging, multimedia, skill-based routing. Multimedia, and I'll show you that when I get into my demonstration, is an add-on feature that is up and coming. There's been a lot of questions in the past, do we support SMS text messaging, email, or social media? In the Noble platform, we do, and we can do skill-based routing associated with that. A couple other high points is that in the Noble unified application, we have a sophisticated workforce management program. Allows you to be able to add that piece into your scheduling of your labor force and rostering of agents. We also have a very robust speech analytics tool. Allows you to do, you can think of it as a data mining for recordings. You can do review of your recordings, evaluations of it, or if you have specific keywords or key phrases, you can use it as a data mining tool. Very effective tool to utilize in a lot of different call center environments. Management dashboards, sophisticated data management tools. As we get into the demonstration, you'll see that there's some very high-level filtering capabilities built into the Noble Enterprise platform. It has cloud-based deployment options. It is web-based. A lot of different things allow you to access the system through web applications as opposed to thick client applications. We have integration tools to third-party CRM systems in both an ODBC and a web service or URL query type format, and Enterprise's support for future-proofing of software updates. So I'll hand it back to you, Jeff.
All right, thanks, Randy. Appreciate that. So let's take a moment to talk about the migration path itself. The migration path of the program we've put together provides 100% credit for the TouchStar software you previously purchased. So if you have, basically it's a license for license swap that preserves your TouchStar software investment from the past. We have deeply discounted hardware to refresh the environment. We'll provide an in-depth business and technical assessment in the process. Something slightly different, I think, than what you went through with TouchStar is a functional design specification. This is a step in the overall Noble methodology that effectively goes through the configuration and the business requirement for your implementation step by step. It documents that requirement. It is a shared expectation of the deliverable, meaning you sign off on that functional design specification, and that effectively becomes the overriding project internally for us, the work order, if you will, on how we set up that program. We have full hardware and software support options. Hardware support includes anything goes wrong with your system, we will fly a technician to your site and we'll replace that part at no extra cost to you. Full software support 24/7. We have several support options as well. And again, a full accompaniment of professional services. No two implementations are exactly alike. Every business has specific requirements. There may be back-end applications, third-party interfaces, whatever that requirement might be. We have a wonderful group of development resources that are ready to create either those custom interfaces or customized processes that you might need, as well as consulting services to help maximize the operations in your center. So moving to the key differentiators, the platform differentiators between the TouchStar platform and Noble Enterprise. I'm going to hand this over to Randy because of Randy's vast experience with both applications. Randy, would you like to go ahead and address this?
Sure. Well, as I mentioned before, you'll find if you decide to go into the Noble Enterprise migration path that a lot of the features and functions that you have right now are very similar. It may look a little bit different. The process to accomplish those may be a little bit different, but in the long run, you're not going to lose any functionality. And in most regards, you're going to gain some additional functionality or some additional technology. Such things as web-based agents, extended capacity for agents and message blasting, enhanced feature sets, the per-call filters and the anti-stuffing. That's a feature that I'll go into a little bit more detail in the demonstration, but essentially what the filtering capability in Noble gives you the ability to do is every single call that you make can be made a different way. Let's say like you are calling, attempting a call 5 times. First time you hit an answering machine, you could leave a message. Second, third, and fourth time, if you don't connect, you can dial it as far as different methods, different times. Maybe the 5th time that you attempted, you hit the answering machine again. You can leave a message, but it can be an entirely different message that time. We have a grid application that allows you to do sort of a portfolio or owned accounts. So if you load lists for specific agents, they have viewing capabilities into that. Voicemail response, as far as being able, the agent can see voicemails in real time on their agent application. So if there are voicemails or you're utilizing it, the agents can prioritize them or deal with that in real time. There's a full email response management system that allows you to do not only outbound emailing, which you can do in TouchStar if you're using scripting, but also inbound email fulfillment. So you can use that as a avenue to be able to service your customers. IVR and text-to-speech, right party contacts, support social media, and I'll show you that in the demo. As far as enhanced management features, it's got a remote management console that allows you to use tablets like an iPad to be able to control your system in a completely mobile environment. You can put audio on it so you can do your coaching and monitoring in there, and then it also has a full complement of automated management features, reports and report scheduling. It also has a task scheduling capability, screen monitoring and screen recording, so you can actually look at the screen as you're listening to it for agents. So you know, you can see where they're at on the screen, what keystrokes they're attempting, and then record it, so when you do your recording playback, you'll be able to see not only the screen while you're listening to the audio, but you'll be able to see the navigation that the agent is using throughout the screen. So there's some definite improvements in the Noble Enterprise environment from your present system, but like I said, most of the features and functions you have right now will not change. They'll still be available in the Noble application.
Yeah, thanks, Randy. So at this point, we'll go ahead and move into the demonstration phase of the presentation. Randy will go through the various modules of the Noble Enterprise platform. Once we get through that, we'll move to, again, the process by which we take the next steps, and then we'll address some of the questions and answers. Randy, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Give me a second while I flip it over to my desktop. So I'm in what we call the Maestro application. The Maestro application in Noble Systems is actually a combination of the TouchStar Administrator, the TouchStar Supervisor application, the TouchStar IVR Maker, the TouchStar Reporter, and several other utilities. They're all combined into this one centralized manager portal. We have accessibility to the different areas along tabs on the left-hand side. What I'm going to start out with is under the Utilities section. Because this application is so powerful, you may not want to give access to all areas to every member of your management staff or your users. So there's a system access setup that allows you to identify particular users or particular agents within your call center. And then within there, you can say that they are members of a certain area of access. I've got about 35 or 40 separate areas within this application that you can assign a user to, and if they do not have access to the area that, if they're not assigned to an area, they will not have access to it. So you can control who has ability to change what within this application. When I go into the agent management area, we have something similar to something we tried to develop in TouchStar called Visual Supervisor. This is our equivalent to your active agent screen in the supervisor application. Essentially what we've got is a visual representation of every agent that's on the floor right now, and we have them color-coded based on the different status areas that they're in. A green would mean that they're on a call. This gold color would mean that they're waiting for a call. And red here would mean someone that is logged into the system, but they're in a pause mode now, so they're not available to take a call. And all of this information is tracked historically through our reporting system. You'll notice as I hover my cursor over an agent station, I get a bubble pop-up. The bubble pop-up will tell me some just basic information as to what campaign they're on, the phone number that they're with, and the amount of time they've been on connected to that call. If I right-click this agent station, I have things such as agent reports, agent hours, plus this is where we do our monitoring. In the TouchStar system, we utilize an agent application to do your coaching and monitoring. In the Noble Enterprise system, we attach a voice path telephony hookup to this application, so this is where you would do your monitoring. You've got the capability to do call listening, call coaching, call barging, where you can join in on the conversation. And then also, if you select to use screen viewing, this is where you'd have your screen viewing. And in conjunction with the listening, coaching, barging, you could view the screen while you're talking to the agent or coaching them. So it gives you some flexibility and some enhancements over the present-day TouchStar system. You also have the ability to change an agent from one group to another. A group can be I should say, when you change them, maybe you have an overflow or a peak load in a particular group. This allows you to move them from one group to another dynamically here at the supervisor station. And then the last thing you've got the capability here is if you need to force an agent into a log out. Maybe someone got up from their workstation and didn't log out properly. You can identify it and log it off here. You'll also see some flashing taking place within this view. Flashing are some alerts that we have built into the system. The alerts are controlled by you. Essentially, there's different status points with thresholds in here that you would be able to set. The alerts can be tied into individual campaigns or they can be set globally. When an alert is reached, it's going to flash here at the manager portal, but simultaneously it's going to flash at the same time at the agent station. So if a supervisor sees the alert, the agent is seeing the alert at the same time. And as you'll see a little bit farther in the demo, we are able to couple these alerts with reports, and you can actually receive an email if somebody goes into an alert status. And then if they're still in that status after so many minutes, you'll receive subsequent emails. We have an area in Noble Enterprise called the control panel. Difference in terminology in Noble is that the enterprise system has everything combined into what we call groups. A group consists of phone lines, stations or agents, lists, so you can have multiple lists, and campaigns. As I flip from one group to another, you'll see that I have a listing down below of the associated campaigns or lists that are being dialed with this. It gives me the capability to mix and match lists in the same campaign and segregate them as far as historical information. So if you're buying lists and you want to see the quality of a list, you can actually look at a performance of an individual list without having combined it with other lists in the centralized campaign. So it gives you some flexibility as far as being able to do different things with different lists. As we have in TouchStar with the parent-child, you can also utilize this. We have a feature called Targeted Line Assignment, where we can use this list stacking here and assign percentages. So we want to take 5% from this list, 10% from this, 10% from this. So we can utilize multiple lists or multiple campaigns, dial them all simultaneously under the same group, so you can have a combination of different lists dialing with agents at the same time if you need that environment. We also have a dashboard which is similar to the TouchStar supervisor application under the campaigns area. You'll see that this area here will populate momentarily as it's pulling live feeds from this system. This is telling me that I have this many records, 30,140 records loaded in the system. I have 29,897 available. It's going to give me, based on what my statistics are, I've got 83 hours or 83 minutes left of dialing at this pace with this amount. You'll also see that I have some red, yellow, and green cells here. I can take any one of these cells, right-click on it, and I can set up my thresholds. The thresholds allow me to identify a minimum and a maximum for my alerts. And if something goes into red alert, as I mentioned before, we can attach that with a report and send out an email notification for that alert. Other thing I want to mention, in both this area and that agent stations area, I do not have to have this window open for those alerts to take place. Once they're set in the system, they're put in a buffer. If something hits that alert status, that email function or that alert at the agent station automatically takes place. So I do not have to have a supervisor sitting here watching this at all times. Under my campaign setup, I actually have under my campaign maintenance, exactly like you have in TouchStar where you have existing campaigns. We can select a campaign, use it as a template, and copy the rules and conditions, or you can create a new campaign, or I can come in and update an existing campaign. Within here, I've got the capability to identify my call pacing. Call pacing gives me the capability to go in and interact with my predictive dialing algorithm, and I can do things such as target my wait time between calls. So if you have, let's say you want to target maybe a 10-second wait time between calls. Can't guarantee the system's going to hit it every time, but it's going to be part of the predictive dialing algorithm, and it will try to maintain that target that you have set here. And then the other standard features, such as your targeted drop rates, your compliance method drop rates, controls your drops over connects, your fixed lines per agent, and then some preview dialing and blast dialing adjustments here. Under campaign dialing, we can set some general thresholds as far as attempts and number of rings. Under my dialing rules, I can attach a caller ID to every campaign like you can in TouchStar, with the addition that you can also assign a company name. So you can have a name and a caller ID associated with that. This is also where we get into our filtering capability. The advanced filters allow us to do things such as identify alternate phone numbers and dial them differently. There's a add-on feature called Best Time to Call that will read your right party contact table within the system, and as you select calls to be dialed, it will reference that right party contact table and pick the correct time or a approximate time that someone has picked up before and threshold your dialing based on what the history of that call was. Things such as calling windows, exclusion dialing, fetching statistics, per call parameters. The per call parameters, like I mentioned before, allow you to dial that phone number differently every time it's called, but we also can capture the area code of that particular phone number, and we can do what's called anti-stuffing, meaning that we can identify a local phone number that we can use for your caller ID if you want that phone call to look like it's a local phone call. So we can actually change that caller ID based on the area code of that call that you are making, and that's all done in this per call parameters area. We've got quota dialing, time zones. So there's some very, very advanced features in this filtering area that really make this Noble Enterprise product superior over not only TouchStar, but many of the other dialing solutions out in the market today. I've got under my campaign management capability to go into a list scheduler. The list scheduler allows me to identify in advance particular lists that I may want to put on an auto timer, meaning that I want to start it and stop it at a very specific time. It's up to you. Everything that I've shown you so far in here is more or less a manual adaptation of this. You can automate almost everything in here to make this very productive and enhance your dialing environment. So, keep in mind that you do have the ability to go in and manually manipulate this, but once you set up your initial templates and your profiles, everything from that point is pretty much can be set up in an automated fashion. I'm going to go into my data management area now. This list builder is similar to the TouchStar Dial Builder environment. It gives me the capability to do my data mapping from my source file. The data that you load into the system gives me an idea of what my source file table looks like, my fields, and then how they associate into the call list field, which is similar to the dial table in TouchStar. It's basically just a drag and drop. I identify one of these fields, pull it over here and drag it. Oops, won't let me do it there. Let me pull this down here. I have to drag it into a field that would be associated with it. So there we go. So I can do that drag and drop as opposed to the drop-down windows within TouchStar. I can also do some advanced sorting, add some advanced properties. I can save these into a template and then utilize templates at a later point. Once I've created that, I can come in here as far as my profiles. Once I have created all my templates, it's just a matter of coming in and clicking which template I want to use for my data mapping, my calling list, my campaigns. Gives me the capability to delete current records or append to the existing list or dedupe. I can come in here prior to running this or loading this and look at a sample of the data that I have to make sure that I have pulled the data correctly. And then once I'm ready to load the list, I just hit OK, and it will take your source file and load it into the dialing list. And then if you've got any screening or exclusions that you want to take, it'll give me a listing of what those exclusions were. Under my quality assurance area, I have my recording playback. Recording playback lets me pull up recordings based on criteria, very similar to what you have in TouchStar, the exception that there's more fields here, and then you actually have some variables that you can map data into and use those for lookup criteria. When I run my query, it will bring up my list of matching recordings. The recordings will all have metacode associated with that. When I hit my play, I'll be able to listen to the recording. In this case, I would have a screen viewing capability of it, so as I'm listening to it, I'd be able to see what the screen view for that agent was. There's also a quality assurance module that's built into this. The quality assurance module allows you to do scorecarding. We will give you a utility here that allows you to create the scorecard. So you're allowed to create the questions and the type of answers, either a yes or no answer, whether it's a violation or an exclusion, and notes, or you can grade it from 0 to 10 as far as a grading scale. You've got email functionality out of here, so after you've done with the scorecard, you can email this scorecard to either supervisor or manager, or in some cases you may want to send it right back to an agent. On top of the quality assurance area, I also have reporting that's tied into it. The reports will give me information about particular agents and results of the scorecard. So you can look at trends. You can identify agents that are stellar and maybe use their recordings for training purposes. Or if someone isn't meeting the average score, maybe you can use it for some retraining or possible other things. Under my call routing, I've got the capability to utilize IVR Manager. The IVR Manager is very similar to the TouchStar IVR Manager. It works with different elements. Essentially, you have an entry point, then you have modules below it, and then tasks. Essentially, within the tasks, it allows you to add things such as an ACD action, which would be a route to agent. We have some other things built in here as far as credit card validation. We can do hang-ups, hold music, launch, play actions, SQL actions if you're doing database lookups, text-to-speech actions if you're using text-to-speech. So all of that is built in here. We'll work with you to create your initial IVRs and then train you on how to maintain your IVRs, either update them, delete them, or modify based on what your needs are. Also in here, we have a very sophisticated skill-based routing area. The skill-based routing allows us to identify specific skills, particular DNIS skills, and then associate those skills with the DNIS. We can prioritize these, so maybe some skills you want to have a priority on. And then down below, what I've got is a list of my agents, or I should say I can use a drop-down of my agents and then assign particular skills to them. I just identify the skill, click the agent, and then I have the levels as far as proficiency. So maybe you have an agent that's not 100% proficient, but for taking calls, you may want to have them in your group in case a call ever, you have enough, you've got inbound calls that do filter down to that level. At least you'll have someone be able to take that call that will know something about that particular skill. Under utilities, I have another utility in here that would be an upgrade from TouchStar. It's the Callback Manager. Callback Managers gives me the capability to view all of my assigned callbacks. And let's say like you have an agent that calls in sick one day. You may want to go in and view what their callback inventory is. I can come in here, identify that, and then I can reassign that callback if necessary. I can assign it to a different agent. I can delay it to a different date and time, or I can delay as far as notification if I want to. So it gives me the capability to handle callbacks and use some advanced filtering within this area. Last thing I want to hit within the Maestro application is our campaign reports. Essentially, within the Noble Enterprise system, the reporting feature is multifaceted. When you look at a report in TouchStar, it's just going to give you the report based on the title of that particular report. This one here will give me real-time information, what's happening on the floor right now, and then I also can do historical reporting based on date and time ranges, or maybe a list range, or maybe a campaign. So I've got a multifaceted report here. If I want to, I've got the capability to view this in a graph format. Then I also have capability to look at different areas within here. I can look at my productivity statistics. I can look at my call dispositioning statistics. In this case, I can look at my outbound calling statistics. So it gives me many different views of the same data all in the same report. And then you'll also notice I have the red, green, and yellow cells here. As I mentioned before, I can take any of these cells, right-click on it, go into Configure Alerts. This gives me my minimum and my maximum as far as the alerts, or I should say normal, warning, or alert. If something goes into a red alert, gives you the capability to set up your email distribution And the email distribution would take place right at that moment, and then you can set the increments in here for 30 minutes if it doesn't change, or 1 hour. And you can send this out to multiple email recipients at the same time. So I can set up my alerts, close this report. It will be stored within the system. If an alert status happens, I will be notified immediately of that so I can take some action to rectify that situation. Next area that I want to cover, I'm going to now go over to the agent application. Within the agent application, it's username and password. Desktop, this is a web-based agent. I actually log into a URL. I'm pulling this from a web server, so it gives you the capability to run your agents either locally or remotely, and you can use this web agent environment. We do have a thick client agent if you so need that type of environment, but everything moving forward is pretty much based in this web architecture. I have some icons across the top of my web agent here, things that I can do when I'm not active on a call, such as do a dial now, which would be a manual dial out. Mentioned as far as my grid capability, the grid capability gives me accessibility into my calling list. I can do instant chat here from my agent, and then I also can do callbacks, and then also my voicemail. And let me see something here. There we go. So my grid just came up. It took a second for it to come up. When an agent is ready to go into a call, they basically just hit this blue arrow. It'll put them into the queue. You'll see the agent go from into a yellow, meaning I'm between calls, and then as the system is dialing and finds calls, when a live call comes in, it will get transferred to the agent at that moment. And the agent station now turns green, and I get my screen pop. So everything that I have across the top here is very similar to what you have in TouchStar. You can do your callbacks. I can do transfer calls either to individual agents, to groups, internal transfers or external transfers. I can put calls on hold. I can do chat messaging between agents, and you can control who an agent can send chat messaging to or not give them any of these features or functions. I have an area within my designer tool that allows me to turn off these either at a campaign level or at an agent level. Everything below this gray line is totally created by the end user, by the customer. So you can change the look and feel of any of these calls. You have the same functionality in here as if you would have our e-superscripting product. We have ODBC connectivity, and we have web service or URL query capability built into this scripting tool. As you can see, I've got different types of screens here that I can utilize as we're going through this. So let me go back. I also have the capability, the view, if I want to, and I'm going to initiate a couple inbound calls here. I have an inbound queue identifier here, so I can actually from the agent screen see calls that are in the inbound queue. In TouchStar, you are able to see that there are calls in the queue, but you don't know what those calls are. Well, here I can actually gain accessibility to it, and if I want to, I actually can go in and I can prioritize these, or I can take the call that I'm on right now and put it on hold and bring one of these calls onto my system. So I've got the capability to manipulate my inbound queue. So when I go to next call here, it's going to put me back in the queue, and it will deliver me the next call that's available. So let me do a couple of these. I've initiated some inbound calls, so now I'm on an inbound call. So that inbound call is part of our blended environment. It gives me the capability to handle the inbound call. When I click my Take Next Call, I'm now in a social media or an SMS text message environment. So I've just received an inbound SMS text message. I can respond back to it with either a free-form message, or I can come in here with a preset message as far as I can go in and do a database lookup, assign that to this message, and when I send it out, the customer that responded to you or sent that will be responded back with that SMS message. Likewise, I've got accessibility in the social media, so I can use Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, things of that nature. Got my free-form text or my pre-canned text, and then when I post the message, puts me back in the queue. And last but not least, I have email fulfillment capabilities, so I can take email messages, do the same thing as far as respond back to them, or I can do my drop-down. It'll do a database lookup if that particular drop-down needed a lookup, and then when I send out the email, I have no more calls in the inbound queue, so now I'm back in the outbound queue. So it gives me the capability to be able to utilize my agent environment for multimedia, not only just audio calling, but I can go into my social media or my email or SMS texting environments. Last thing I want to show you today is our what we call our Composer Designer. The Composer Designer is my environment where I'm actually creating those scripts that you just saw in the agent environment. It's a little bit different from the eSuperscripting tool, where this is more drag and drop in a grid type environment. I have a toolbox over here in the lower left-hand corner with my functions that I can add to this particular script. Let's say like I want to add a button. When I drag the button here and place it, I have a properties area here which will give me the coloring, the positioning, the size of that button. Now, what is that button going to do? Well, I have associated with that button, I have something called scripting. Scripting allows me to come in and for whatever action, in this case a button would be clicked. If I right-click on this, it's going to give me a list of actions. The actions can be such things as an account action, like a account lookup. I can do call control in here. Maybe I want to do a dial now or a hang up or a pause. I can set my callbacks using a button. I can do data mapping if I want to. I can initiate an outbound email from here. I can come in as far as navigation and navigate to a different point within the script. We have PC charge built into this. I can go into a SQL lookup, so if I wanted to do an execute SQL statement. And last but not least, I have my web service capability, where I can launch a URL, do HTTP web services, or emit a JavaScript. This window here can act as a browser window, and you can utilize your own website within this browser window. So we can embed that in there, and if you've already developed your own environment for taking information from potential customers or clients, it gives you that capability to utilize this within the web browser. A couple other things within the setup area here. I mentioned that we have the capability to do our toolbar options. So the agent toolbar, you can control it here within our Composer Designer as far as which one of those icons you want to have visible. Either turn them on or turn them off. I can also adjust that at the agent level, so if you have particular agents, maybe you don't want to give them all those features, you can isolate a particular agent and eliminate some of these functionality buttons that are associated with that. I did mention before that I do have an application here that we call Harmony. Harmony allows me to utilize this mobile device, my tablet, an iPad, gives me the capability to come in here and utilize control of my call center without being physically connected to it. I'm in a web-based environment here, that area that I showed you with their agent stations before. It will go out and it will populate this screen based on the agents that you have logged in. You'll be able to see who's talking. And then as far as the options in here, I've got the capability to move an agent. As I said before, I can log an agent off, or I can do my monitoring from this location. So my monitoring would be my coaching or listening or barging. So that feature is not tied into your call center. You could be out at maybe a different site. Maybe you could be at home. You could even be in your car, and you could open up this. Hopefully, you're not driving while you're looking at it, but you can utilize this in a remote fashion. So this is a new feature that we have, and it's a very it's growing in leaps and bounds. It's got a number of different areas in here, and as future development happens on this, we'll add more features and functions to this. But
you know, one thing I might add to that, Randy, this also makes a very nice wallboard display for your call center as well. Here in Oklahoma City, the Noble Oklahoma City office, we run an inside sales group and call center. We use this as our wallboard on an LED screen. It gives all the agents the ability to see where they're at, so we can change that view and helps them self-manage themselves to some degree.
It requires a very large iPad for that, but yes, you can't do that. No, it would be in a wallboard situation. So as far as the features and functions within the Noble Enterprise system, I only briefly touched on some of them today. There are many, many more within there. If you would like to have a more in-depth viewing of this, contact your sales account manager. They'll be happy to set up a demonstration with you, whether we do it remotely or come and do it live. Be more than happy to give you all the information, features, and functions that would meet what your needs are.
All right. Well, thanks, Randy. That's a perfect segue into the next segment here, which is the next steps. The process is pretty straightforward to move down the migration path. Contact your sales account manager. They will schedule a business and technical assessment with you. In some cases, that can be done over the phone. In some cases, that might be done on site. The objective of the assessment is to fully understand the requirements, the business requirements and the technical requirements. Your sales account manager can provide you a quotation and the appropriate documentation to secure the deal and move forward with. Now, once we get through that process, the functional design specification will be created. That'll be done with your SE or systems engineer like Randy. There's other engineers that we use as well in the organization. Our project manager will sit down with you and your team and complete the functional design specification, document the project timeline and the deliverables, schedule the implementation, and from that point, it's really it's the timing to go live. So we'll move to the QA session. So there's a number of questions were sent in previous to the conference here. So a lot of them revolve around cost and price. So I would tell you that every opportunity, every environment will be slightly different, so cost will vary depending on what you currently have. I'll go back to the previous slide. And again, it's a license for license swap. So if you have a agent license on TouchStar, we're going to swap that for a Noble Enterprise license in the migration. If you have recording and monitoring QA, we're going to swap that as well. So it's like for license swap. Again, that preserves your previous investment, and it reduces the overall migration cost greatly. Every hardware environment can potentially be different depending on the size and other specifications. We have a deep discount on the hardware itself, which will also help to lower the cost for the migration. So long story short, there's many discounts applied. Every instance will be different. I encourage you to contact your sales account manager. If you do not know who your sales account manager is, feel free to call any one of the sales account managers here, 888-866-2538. You can ask for myself, Jeff Fontenot, at extension 3314. I'll be happy to get someone scheduled up with you and move forward in the process. Another question, Randy, that we had, I'm going to defer to you on this, is about appointment scheduling, and you may have covered that to some degree in the presentation, but if you could just elaborate a bit more on appointment scheduling for reps.
Sure. Appointment scheduling is a part of the Noble system. Essentially, it's very similar to the appointment scheduler that is embedded into the eSuperscript application. Allows you to set up particular offices or particular people, identify time slots, days of the week, days of the month that they're available, and then as an agent is presented with that scheduling matrix, they can go in and pick the time that is appropriate for that particular customer's scheduled appointment. The system will update the appointment scheduler database. At that point, once that appointment has been grabbed, it will now block out that available time, and then it will provide you in report format what those scheduled appointments are. So it's very similar to what's in the eSuperscripting format.
All right. Well, okay. Thanks, Randy. So one additional question we had online, Randy, while we were going through the presentation, is about agent hotkeys to pass call information to third-party systems and, quote-unquote, think collections in this case. Could you elaborate on that, please?
Sure. Essentially, yeah, we do have the capability within the Composer application to access multiple databases. Collection software packages are a big part of our interaction with those CRM systems. We can do it both in an ODBC fashion or in a web services fashion. We can do things like HTTP posts, things of that nature.
Okay, great. Additional questions within that question, questions about hardware, still Dialogic or NMS. This is a different platform. Randy, perhaps you could touch on the hardware, essentially as being a SIP platform.
Sure. We run, as far as our telephony and our host environment, in a Linux operating system environment with a Linux type of database. Atomics database is what we're using right now. We're also looking at another database that's in beta right now called Postgres.
Which would be an equivalent of Microsoft SQL, right?
Exactly. They're all ODBC, and they run off of SQL programming, so you still would have that environment. As far as the telephony environment, we are using in our SIP environment, we're not really using telephony boards anymore. We're using your NIC cards, similar to Sangoma. It allows us to be able to utilize the technology from the SIP signaling or SIP switching environment, and we can utilize it in both in SIP and TDM connectivity. So Dialogic and NMS are still very prevalent within the Noble environment, but the new applications that we have, I should say, let me correct that. NMS is strictly in the TouchStar environment, but the SIP environment for the Noble Enterprise is basically run off of the Ethernet boards.
Yeah, which lends itself to scalability and lower cost implementations. The other question, within this question again, functional design specification, roughly the equivalent to the TouchStar statement of work. Yeah, roughly it is. I mean, the fact is that through the functional design specification, it is essentially every configuration point that goes into configuring the system. So it's, I don't want to call it a lengthy process, but it's an in-depth process where a project manager from our implementation team works with the SE, with your business folks, with your technical folks, to deliver, again, that the shared expectation of the deliverable, documented, signed off, ready to roll. That goes into the account management and the support departments as well. So again, it's slightly different than what you may have experienced with the former TouchStar company. I would say it takes those processes and involves it quite a bit more. It's 20 years of implementation process. The methodologies have been proven, and I think it's a very thorough process that reduces the downtime and the learning curve to bring up to speed a new application. One last question here, and we're about out of time. Question is Datatel and Colgen X clients. So understanding that there were a number of applications in the TouchStar family, at the time that Noble acquired TouchStar, we will honor like-for-like licensing swaps. So absolutely, if you are a TouchStar client, a DataTail client, CallGen client, some of those may be slightly different than others in terms of the software license for license swap, but listen, we want everyone to have the path to migrate should it be something they want to do. We'd love to have you on board on that capacity. We'll continue to support those other applications as we can, as we have. So with that being said, I appreciate everybody's time today. I hope it was informative. Please feel free to reach out to your sales account manager. You may call me directly if you have questions, and we look forward to working with you. Thanks again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for participating. This does conclude today's call. You may now disconnect.